2019 in gaming. It's been a bit of an unusual year. You know, the bigger outlets, they like to focus on the big budget, the AAAs, and in terms of the AAAs, there's like very few candidates that a lot of the bigger outlets are unifying around. But I think that doesn't do justice to the sort of wider video game industry. Like, there's been a ton of awesome, incredible smaller games this year that I definitely have enjoyed covering with MBZ on TNL, and there's a ton of them in this list. So I think when people say, oh, 2019, it's not a very good year, I think they just haven't played enough games, or maybe they've been playing too many AAA games. But either way, I think this year's had a lot to offer. Cadence of Hyrule, you're looking at right now, that's one game I really enjoyed this year. It didn't quite make my top 10, but I think it's such a cool, refreshing take where, you know, Nintendo have said, hey, why don't you try doing something with this IP? And I think if that's a precedent for the future, that's a really exciting route to go down. So I guess you're here for that top 10 list, so let's get on with number 10. You'd be easily fooled to think Nintendo were going to make some changes when we all saw the first gameplay of Link's Awakening back during a Nintendo Direct in February 2019. Maybe Nintendo would smooth out some of the slightly old-fashioned game design. What if they added a dungeon? The answer to both these questions is no. But to be fair, they did add a Dungeon Maker mode thing that, to be honest, I touched for about 10 minutes and instantly wasn't a fan. Overall, Nintendo stuck to their guns and made a literal one-to-one remake of a Zelda classic. I loved Link's Awakening first time round. Some parts were super tough, and maybe I've become less patient as I've played more games. But solving some of the more obscure puzzles and working out which item to take to who to unlock what became quite tiresome second time round. Don't get me wrong, the 2D Zelda formula is as strong as ever, and I had a great time with this game, but the greatest feeling I had coming away was, this art style is awesome, but wow, has 2D Zelda come a long way since 1993. Minish Cap and Link Between Worlds stick out in my mind as two more modern 2D Zeldas that refresh the formula. This game will please its fans, but I would question in an era of Breath of the Wild how far this game will have reached beyond the splendour of Kohlehint Island. I do like short games, and I like Metroidvanias. Stick the two together, give me a cute cat with a mech suit, and you have yourself a deal. Gato Roboto is certainly on the fast-paced Metroid fusion end of the Metroidvania spectrum. Linear corridors with a sprinkling of some awesome and in many cases very challenging boss fights make for a strong formula. Stealthier, slower paced sections where you play as the cat outside the mech suit really mixed up the pace and made the game feel a lot less one note. The two-tone art style works for a game that is so short, but I don't think it's something I could get used to for a game that was any longer. Sometimes you just want a game that iterates on a format you're very familiar with and cuts it down to a short few-hour experience that you can just sail through to see the end. This game doesn't break the mold, and yes, perhaps it's getting more coverage because cats and mech suits, but hey, this game does cats and mech suits really well. Bertil Horberg, who brought us Gunman Clive 1 and 2, returned to give us a pure boss fight game. The world is under attack from a squad of giant mechs, and it's up to you and your trusty array of Contra-style weapons to shoot, platform on, and wallop with your baseball bat the weak spots of all these monstrosities. I loved playing Cuphead early in 2019 and was so pleased to play another boss-focused 2D shooter. The boss designs all feel so different and fresh, and combined with one of the most bright apocalyptic worlds I think I've seen in a game, the whole game just really pops. Gunman Clive gave us an unbelievably well polished little game, and this game is no different in my mind. Sure, there are a few platforming sections that can frustrate you at points, but the overall diversity of things you're doing in this game keeps the format from going stale. It's a shame more people aren't talking about this game. It is honestly one of my surprises of the year and does a lot of things that are super up my alley. For me, the difficulty was just right and kept me coming back for more. It's not going to send you round the bend like Cuphead did, but this game isn't a walk in the park either. If you like an old-fashioned arcade-style 2D shooter with a modern boss rush format, pick up this game, destroy those mechs, save planet Earth, and I guarantee you will have a good time. Synergy. In an industry where so many games are often the sum of their parts, where music or art style are often an afterthought in favour of gameplay or plot, it really hits you when a game can seamlessly meld multiple aspects, in this case gameplay, art style, and music. For a game that is focused on short bursts of rampaging through enemies as a guerrilla, the crescendo of drums as you accelerate down corridors couldn't feel more apt. Again, you'll stop, recalibrate, and then take off again, all in line with a perfect rise and fall in tension represented by some timely jazz drums. And again, for a game that is so simple in its formula, the bright, crisp and exaggerated cel-shaded art style makes it so clear where you can go and who the enemies are. This adds to the jazzy sense of style that the music evokes. Ape-Out doesn't overstay its welcome, and for a game that very much sticks to one thing, it knows when to wrap it up at just the right time. Throw in a neat victory lap ending and an optional extra level and I was really impressed with this game. I'm a huge Disney fan, always have been and always will be. But Kingdom Hearts has always been a series that I was curious about but had never tried. For a company like Disney that more often takes over the companies they work with rather than collaborate, it really is one of the most unusual partnerships in the industry to have the RPG giants of Square Enix work so closely with Disney on such a bizarre game that is so true to the films it represents. I had to try out the series. I'll admit I didn't get invested in the wider story. Believe me, I tried. I watched YouTube explainers till I was blue in the face, and honestly it's not where I was going to get any joy with this game. Also, the fighting is just straight up bad. As an action game it feels super dated. There's just so much hacking and slashing that it feels mashy and honestly fairly random. You're now screaming at your screens, Bally? How on earth is this game number 6 on your list? You've not said anything good about the game yet. That's the thing, this game does Disney. From the vast worlds featuring an array of modern Disney classics to some hilariously themed keyblades that will see you use Buzz's gunship from the ride Space Ranger Spin to other theme park rides and nods to other classic films, the level of Disney polish to nail all this stuff just works. Sora himself is also a fun character, and his interactions with Goofy and Donald through your quest really propelled the game forward, giving life to these worlds you visit. This game is just bonkers in so many ways that I enjoyed. I'll never try to defend this game as everyone's cup of tea. But try and find another game where Goofy and Elsa can sing Let It Go together. Because I am yet to find one. The hype surrounding Goose Game definitely pushed me over the edge to picking it up, but following a few middling reviews my expectations were certainly slightly lower. But this game still really surprised me. My fiancé and I played most of the game sat together giving each other ideas on how to progress some of the tasks. In most stealth games, the point at which you get caught or have to start over can feel like a chore or sometimes isn't a ton of fun. In this game, however, it just felt like a hilarious slapstick skit that resulted in your goose getting booted out of a garden or a pub. For me, this game created a series of laugh out loud moments while at the same time was pretty challenging in working out how all the people and items interacted with the environment. Some timely musical cues and clean, crisp depiction of a quaint English town really added to the appeal of this game. It's not going to be everyone's English cup of tea, but for me it was 4 to 5 hours of puzzles interspersed with some laugh out loud moments and a really fun ending. Maybe I just like this game a lot because you can honk at and annoy some more rural inhabitants who might just have voted Brexit. Who knows? When Luigis Mansion 3 was announced in 2018, I was excited, but Luigi's Mansion never was a top tier Nintendo property for me. Playing the first game earlier in 2019 reminded me of the charm of this series, but ultimately the first couple of games both felt of their time and it wasn't clear to me how the series could move on in any meaningful way. Luigi's Mansion 3 far surpassed my expectations and really stuck the landing. The freshness of level design, boss design, charm throughout the single player felt as fresh and fantastical as my first 12 hours with Super Mario Odyssey. Luigi, the plunger ability and the return of the Dark Light combined with the most interactive environment yet meant the world felt so tangible to explore and interact with. The charm in the boss fights and the characters you meet on your journey is a level of polish in cutscenes and world building that I really haven't seen before in a Nintendo game. To top it all, the series proudly strides into the world of HD with some gorgeously lush levels that feel more like separate worlds than floors of a hotel. Next Level Games really hit it out the park with this one. What I thought was going to be a fun game in the series instantly became a system classic for me. No, YouTube hasn't stuck you into another video by accident. I actually do have a Battle Royale first-person shooter game in my number 3 slot for Game of the Year 2019. I've dabbled in a bit of first-person shooters in the past, but more just to have a good time with others who are more keen on the genre at university and friends' houses with local multiplayer. The fact this game was free and the fact that so many people were talking about it meant I felt I should at least give it a go. And here we are, 30 to 40 gameplay hours later. I think this game is incredible. For someone who's a bit of a noob and can't shoot an opponent at 10 meters away to save my life, I actually had a run where I got much better at this game. Sure, my shooting didn't improve to the point where I'd win most gunfights, but my knowledge on where to go, how to support my team, when to defend and when to advance definitely got me out of a lot of tight situations. I honestly think the pinging system helped tremendously with this. Friends, but also random people I'd play with online would help ping the environment, ammo, different guns I might want to try, and of course ping enemies when they're spotted in the distance or just appear out of nowhere. I didn't get a ton of wins, but playing online with my friends, Shaq and Alex, I managed to contribute some kills to help win a match. It was honestly one of the moments of the year for me, being under pressure and getting those kills when it mattered most and my teammates needed reviving. Other games eventually got in the way this year, and I would have loved to have played more of the second map, but the fact that I still sunk a ton of time into it over the first few months proves this game deserves to be here. I've never really properly played a third-person Star Wars game. I've always been more into the flying space shooters, which I guess is a little strange because it's the aspect of the films I probably care about the least. On paper, I've always wanted a Jedi-focused Star Wars game that emphasized force powers, lightsaber duels, and taking on stormtroopers. I didn't play Force Unleashed, and by many accounts there were some areas lacking with that game, even if it did sound like it had some cool moments. Jedi Fallen Order delivered on all these concerns for me. Action-wise, the deliberate, slower-paced combat works so well and really nailed the combination of using the Force and your lightsaber in a finely balanced manner. The plot delivered on an original cast of characters that I cared about in their own right, while they still had strong links to the existing lore. Likewise, there's a couple of nice cameos that I think work so well for what this game is going for. For me, it's the story of the year, and has set up a plot in that universe where I want to know what happens next. The planets are just the right balance of familiarity with what we've seen in the films, but also new planets that have their own historical races and lore. It's a combination that I think this game gets just right. I had some issues with enemies loading in incorrectly and some horrendous loading times on my PS4, but honestly they didn't get in the way of what is my favourite Star Wars game of all time. Also, shoutouts to BD1 for being cute and awesome and putting Metroid Prime into a third-person Star Wars game through his map projection, lore scanning, and giving Cal that oh so crucial stim at just the right moment. It's been a long wait for a top-tier Jedi-focused Star Wars game, but I feel Respawn really delivered on this one. It's been a sad tale for a long time being an Advance Wars fan. Fire Emblem went the AAA direction with a series of very impressive 3DS games, and this year produced a fully voice-acted game in 3 houses with a big budget behind it, while Advance Wars hasn't even had a mention. When I first saw Wargroove, it looked solid, but I was skeptical that it could hit the heights of the indie darling that I was longing for this game to be. I'm pleased to say it far surpassed my expectations. Wargroove takes the Advance Wars formula, reskins it, introducing some really fun characters, some incredible animations, and actually even steps up on the mechanics of a series where I thought the mechanics were near impossible to improve. The critical hit system gives every single unit in the game a strategic scenario where they will do increased damage. Dragons crit units on paths, pikemen crit when they're standing next to ally pikemen, dogs crit when other dogs are adjacent to the enemy you're attacking, the list goes on. Throw in a commander unit that is actually a unit on your map that can dish out some serious damage but can also be killed resulting in defeat, and the formula feels really fresh. I fell in love with the campaign and barely had time to touch all the other modes, including an arcade mode, a puzzle mode, an endless supply of online maps that other users have created. This game really does have it all. The sheer level of polish that the animations and unit designs exude gives this game a real charm that puts it way above even Advance Wars in my mind. I thought I wanted more of the same with Advance Wars, but really this game showed me that a cute fantasy setting and some real substantial mechanical changes as well as endless game modes meant that the formula could be taken to the next level. Wargroove is a masterpiece of strategic war gaming and is my game of the year for 2019. Well, that's it for another year. This list was a lot of fun to make. I'm glad to have done it for the second time. I'd like to keep this thing going every year. It takes a long time to make, but it's definitely worth it. I think it's really good fun. And yeah, just as a year, I kind of definitely kept up that trend of trying to reach outside my comfort zone. I thought Kingdom Hearts 3 was going to be reaching outside my comfort zone, and in many ways it was, but then all the reasons I liked it, it almost felt like the most comfortable game on this list in a weird way. And then, yeah, like Apex Legends, like, I did not expect that game to be anything that I liked. Don't get me wrong, I thought a lot of people would like it, by the fact that it's made by Respawn, and, you know, Titanfall 1 and 2, people love those games, so I thought people would like it. Did I think I would like it? Definitely not. Like, so I'm really still striving to kind of reach out of my comfort zone, and I'm saying this with Wargroove sitting at number 1, so yeah, perhaps I could do even more reaching out my comfort zone. But yeah, a really diverse year in gaming, and I guess I will see you in 2020 when we will have a whole new array of games, both AAA and small, to wade through. Shout outs to SteamWorld Quest, you can see here now. It's another game that didn't quite make the top 10, and man, that final boss fight is just miserable. I can't defend that. So yeah, it didn't quite make it this time, but a very awesome image and form game. Hopefully gonna get to like Slay the Spire next year, or we'll see. Anyway, have a happy new year, and I will see you in 2020. Goodbye.